Hi, and welcome to today's show. Welcome to a very new season, brand new season of Life with Lisa. Today's guest, you've seen her before on my show. She was my very first guest ever, Melissa Kenady, and she's been my season opener twice now. So this is your third time. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Third time's a charm.
Yes, when you were on my show before, we talked a lot about the corporate job that you were in because you have a passion for caring for seniors, and that was the career you were in at the time.
Yes.
Part of why I wanted to have you on the show today is because you've been going through a lot of big changes over the years, over the last, how many, 7 years? Yeah. And one of the things that I think is so relatable about you is you've found yourself a divorced single mom those 6 or 7 years ago, 6 years ago, and now you are you were working full time in a corporate job that didn't allow for a lot of time with your girls, much more than 40 hours a week, but yet you earned a good living. So how do you leave that job to make more time for your kids? And I think that that's something that people try to balance out in everyday life on a very regular basis. And the reason I want to have you here is because it took you some time and some navigating, but I think you found your sweet spot. So we'll get to all of that. I wanted to first just welcome you to the show. Thanks for your transparency and being willing to share your story. And let's start with where you came from. So you moved to Wenatchee how long ago?
Oh gosh. Well, probably about 14 years now.
You got your degree from Central, and then you got your master's from University of Phoenix.
Yes.
And so educated, capable, working your corporate life. Did you think that a corporate job is what you wanted when you were in college? Did you have any idea what you wanted for yourself during that time?
No, it's funny. I always knew I liked helping people. And so when I went to Central, I kind of landed in the family studies and social services spectrum of work. And I have worn a lot of hats with that history of, I was a domestic violence advocate. I worked with sexual assault survivors and with children who'd been assaulted. I worked closely with the Ellensburg Police Department, with things like that and safe kids. And gosh, I feel like I've kind of done a lot. I went back to school and I got my master's because nonprofits are very near and dear to my heart. And I thought I would want to run one. And I did run one here in Wenatchee.
Wellness Place. For how long did you run Wellness Place?
Oh my goodness. I would say probably 5 years.
Executive director. And that's actually how we met.
That is how
we met. I was working at Cherry Creek Radio in community relations, and Dan Conway, who was the GM at that time, said, we need to reach out to Wellness Place and see what they need and how we can help. And you were the executive director. So that's how our friendship was formed. And we've done a lot of fun projects together. I also have a passion for nonprofits and founded my own. And when you made that switch, when you finished out your degree and you got your job at Wellness Place, at that point, did you think, this is where I want to be? Or did you still feel a little bit of a yearning?
Wow, that's a good question. No, I think for a long time, I was really content. I mean, I had such amazing people on the board and on all my steering committees. And I really felt like we were truly making a difference in the lives of the community members. We expanded our programs, we expanded our funding.
And for people who don't know, Wellness Place is a cancer support organization here in our community, founded by Dr. Carl Kovac several years ago, and still thriving. So you were there for about 5 years. You knew you were doing important work. And then about that time, is that when the divorce happened? Were you still at Wellness Place, or you'd made the shift to working with seniors?
Yep, I had made the shift to working with seniors. Wellness Place was great. But I realized that in order to get a raise or really, I kind of plateaued and hit the ceiling. And in order to give myself a raise, it just meant I had to work harder to fundraise and grant write and all of that. And so I kind of wanted to try my my hand at the corporate world with a bonus structure and all of that. And so I landed at Highgate working with seniors.
And you did, that was, you were very happy about a lot of things and for a long time with that job. And you and I did a project together that involved seniors, the Don't Wait History Project, where we got to bring kids in and interview seniors, and you used your work there to start all kinds of really interesting programs for them. So what are some of the things you did that you love, that you feel like you left your mark and made a difference there?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one was the history project. Everyone has a story to tell. And I realized that our seniors, their stories were not being told and they were passing away. And there's just so much that the next generation could learn from their experiences. I think we've both been really blessed with the jobs that we've had, where we've been able to kind of tweak it and make it our own, and be impactful and make a positive impact on our community. And the history project was just one example of that. But I remember, we had, for people who don't know, we had an exhibit in the museum, and it was a mix of, and at PIBIS, and it was a mix of written and oral storytelling. And one of the sons of one of our, I don't even know, like one of our feature stories, I guess, but he came to me with tears in his eyes and was just like, my mom would never talk about that with us. I didn't know her story. Mm-hmm. And to be able to share that and pass that on to her family, she's since passed. And I think that that's just, it's just important. It's really important.
And one of the things that was happening is you would invite me to come in and interview someone that you were getting to know their story at Highgate. I'd go in and interview, and we would do that together. And say they got tired, or it was dinner time, or we were there too long, so it was time to go, and we would go back to do the second part of that. And every time we did that, that person would pass. Like, it happened 2 or 3 times, and then we wouldn't get to finish the story. So we thought, okay, we got to speed this up in a way that is not only gathering that story, but how do we share their story?
Right.
And that's when we came up with, the Wenatchee Valley Museum was very supportive, and we had the exhibit there, and then it did well there. So we moved it to PIBIS, and Steve Robinson was always so supportive of the work we did there.
Yes.
We always had a place. And, I think too, we brought in Eastmont High School students who filmed with us, and we got some feedback from them about, different people, because they'd sit in on the interviews and they learned these things. We had a veteran, we had a woman who was 92 and was the first educated woman in her family. She received her degree many, many years ago from the University of Washington.
Oh my gosh. And her stories, remember telling the story of her siblings being born and like walking miles to find the doctor with the lantern.
And her dad would stand out at the end of the road with a lantern, and all these fantastic stories. And so there was a lot of passion in the work that you were doing. And I remember going to a couple of the round circle, where they kind of exercise and mingle and participating in that. And I remember one guy was there, and he was just full of spunk, and he was joking around. And I said, well, what do you come here for this particular event in the building? And he says, oh, I get to dance, and I might get to have a beer, and you don't think about, wow, they might just want to hang. They aren't going to a bar necessarily, or they aren't going to a saloon where they used to maybe line dance or something, but here they are in this space that was created for them to have a good time and socialize with their peers. Absolutely. And I left there thinking, wow, we take that for granted in our younger life, that we have access to all that no matter where we are.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the big decision you made to leave that very comfortable yet challenging role at Highgate. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back talking with Melissa Kenady. She was my very first guest when I started doing this show several years ago, and here she is opening this season with me again. Thanks for being here. We were talking about your role at Wellness Place led you to your job, a corporate job with Highgate Senior Living. And during that time at Highgate, you went through divorce, found yourself as a single mom of 3 girls. and you had a yearning to do something different and do something on your own. But, you know, it was a big risk because you made a good living and you had job security. So what was going on in your mind that made you think, I'm going to try and risk it all anyway?
Gosh, I think I was pretty transparent with my journey once I decided to leave Highgate and kind of take the launch. But I knew I always wanted to own my own business somehow. I didn't know what that would look like, but I really wanted to be an entrepreneur of some kind. And then one day it just hit me. I have very active children. They are very athletic. They're very active in the community. And I promised one of my daughters that I would watch her championship swim because it was a very big deal. It was the swim that was going to get her to state as a freshman in high school. So a very big, freshmen typically don't make it to a state competition. And so it meant a lot, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I got stuck at work and missed the swim. And, kids are fine. And she was fine. She knew it was going to happen. She, work that happens. Sometimes we always have to choose, and sometimes we don't get to make the choice we want to make. But for me, as the single mom who promised I'd be there, it was a new level of devastation for me.
It was a turning point for you.
It was. I vowed that I would not ever put myself in that position again. And even when I left and kind of branched out and decided this is what I want to do, and I wanted to become a real estate agent, and I interviewed several different offices and several different brokerages. And that was my number one question was, okay, this all sounds great, but what happens if I want to go out of town, or I want to go to the swim meet or travel with my dancer, all these things, and no one really had a great answer. No one, I guess the expectation still as an entrepreneur is that you just continue to work. You generally work harder because you are building your own business.
Yeah, it's like that meme that says, I left my 8 to 5 so I could work 100 hours. It's like work 8 to 8, right? As an entrepreneur. But if you find something you love, it doesn't feel as much like work, and you have a little bit more control. And that was what was appealing to you.
100%. And I just really, people talk about balance, and I feel like that's kind of an overused term. I don't really know that you can balance. I had a good friend of mine use an analogy one time of like serving drinks, like having them on a tray, and you can't really find balance because you take one off and then you're like, wobbly. So balance is kind of, I don't know if it's the right term to use, but that's what I was looking for. And I'm very clear with my clients now. I'm very clear with my team members. Like, this is where I'll be. I still work a lot, but I can, work late at night or work from the pool deck. And, it's afforded me a whole new opportunity for a different lifestyle.
So when you made that jump to real estate, I don't want to say you like had no money, you had what you thought was enough to get you through until you made your first sale. But most definitely you were in hard times, financial times, probably for the first time since, you'd worked at maybe wellness place, because you had these, good paying jobs and you were always employed, right, and you could count on that income.
Yes. Yeah.
Real estate was going to be very different for you.
And it was, you go to 100% commission based and referral based, and you just hope that people trust you enough to refer you, right? Like, I just was praying that my sphere and my network of people knew me and trusted me enough that they'd be like, okay, she'll be good at this too. I think sometimes that's been a little bit of a challenge because I do like to constantly, what's next? What else can I do? What's more? There has to be more out there. And so I like to reinvent and rebrand and rebuild, I guess, but there's a lot of energy in that as well.
Right. And that's there. I mean, it was going to use the word balance, but I won't. But trying to find I will use it. Trying to find the balance between the things that get you excited about starting your day and the things that are mundane about any job or career, understanding that there's going to be both. Right. So let's take a break. And I want to come back and share what you decided to do. You decided you'd been in real estate for 3 years and you decided you made a really big decision most recently.
Yes.
That I think, again, a lot of people can relate to. You're just kind of finding your way, continuing to find your way to the part of your life that's going to fulfill these gaps that, we find ourselves in. So we're talking with Melissa Kenady. We'll be back and share her great big news and the rest of her story in just a moment. Hi, and welcome back to the final segment of the show. It's our first show of the season with my guest, Melissa Kenady. She's been the first guest on a couple of my seasons now, so welcome to the third, as we said. We've been talking about your decision to leave corporate America. You were a divorced single mom of 3 daughters. You missed a very important event for one of your daughters, and you decided no more. And while being a real estate agent afforded you some freedoms, you still, in your entrepreneurial spirit, wanted to start something on your own. So that's where we are in your story now. And let's talk about taking yet again another leap, which created also, again, financial risk and a great deal more responsibility, but you had a yearning for it.
I did. And it just weighed heavy on my heart for a long time. And when I came to you, actually just, I think, over a glass of wine and briefly posed like, what do you think about me having my own brokerage? And you were so believing in me. I think that made all the difference. So I think that that's one of the lessons I would like to maybe share with your viewers is choose who's in your corner and choose who you're hearing the messages from, because you so badly need people to lift you up and believe in you, because there's times when you will not believe in yourself. And I think sometimes women feel that maybe a little bit more than men, maybe not. I just know that sometimes it can be hard to take that leap. But, we talked, I think, in the last segment about the catalyst of change and being brave and trusting your gut. And it's so much easier to trust your gut when you have people in your corner that trust your gut with you.
And easy for me to say. I didn't know what it took to start your own brokerage firm, but it was, I've heard that. I just read it maybe last week about how most people give up right before that turn that's going to get them to the place they wanted to be. And you maybe never land in that exact place you want to be, but you definitely are reaching milestones along the way. And so through your process, I think you thought, oh, I'll take my test, I'll get my license. That's got to be as easy as becoming a realtor.
Right.
And then that was a big delay for you. And so you had to get A, B, and C done, but you couldn't until, D happened and it became this. But again, it was about just focus on the end game here, and you can't know what that whole big end game is going to be because you're just getting started, but you're getting started, and that's what you were going for.
It's funny. I told someone who's in the industry that I was opening my own, and I remember her response was like, "Wait, you can do that? Like, how do you just do that?" And I was like, "Oh, you just do it." I didn't really realize. I just kind of leapt, and I like the creative side. And I feel like, us working together on the branding and all of that gave me the momentum to move forward. Probably my checklist should have been a little bit tighter. I probably should have had some things checked off, but if you know me at all, you know that that's my personality. I've just always been that way. I leap and then I make it work and figure it out on the way down and
on the way up.
On the way up. True. Yeah.
So you have launched the Kenady Group, which is your own real estate brokerage firm. You have 2 team members already. You're looking for growth, but you also want to keep it boutique-ish is the term that we've used, so that everyone within your group can afford the lifestyle that they want. They may not want to work 60 hours a week. They might want to work 20, whatever that looks like for them, and then whatever it looks like for you.
Yes. Yes. And I'm really excited to be able to attract, men and women alike who really share the same values and the same client ideals of how we want to provide service and give back to our community. And I think that even with my team members that I have now, that's really apparent in how active they are within the community on their own, with Booster Club and Alethea, which I know you're familiar with. And I volunteer with the veterans group, and there's just so much more than just the grind. I don't want to grind it out, and I don't want to be the biggest. I don't want any of that. I want to share an office space with like-minded people who value having a good life and, golfing and vacationing and raising your kids and, whatever that looks like for you. That's the important part.
Well, I think that you're off to a good start. One of the things that I think you and I have had in common all along is I used to say when my son was young, now he's graduated college, he's off on his own, but I always wanted to figure out a way to feed my kid and feed my soul and be home by 3:00 every day when he got home from school. And it forced me to be creative, because you can't work 8 to 5 if you have to be home by 3.
Right.
But I also had to afford this child and this life. And so what I think is important for hopefully people to take away from your story and from this message today is that it doesn't happen overnight. It is these small decisions we make, or these big leaps that we take, that eventually get us to a place where we're feeling like, this is my job, this is the career I've built, but it doesn't feel like a lot of work. Now, you might have left your 8 to 5 and work, still work a lot of hours, more hours than 40 sometimes.
Yes.
But like you've said, it might be from a dock while camping, near water, or it might be late at night after you've put your kids to bed, but you'll never miss an event again, hopefully, based on a work schedule.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my youngest now asks me every day when she leaves for the bus, "You'll be home, right, when I get home from school?" And being able to say yes and, have dinner ready and take her to hockey practice and all of these things, so important to me. Now, after she goes to bed, yes, I will be up responding to emails, typing contracts, that's just, and we are very deadline driven industry. That's the way it is. There are going to be times when I have to answer my phone during dinner, but my kids also know that the good outweighs the bad. I might answer my phone during dinner. We might be having dinner, like you said, on the dock. And so
yeah,
it's all about.
It might not be for everyone. I know that I have people in my life that say to me, "I have no idea what you do for a living, and I could never have that much kind of not knowing what's coming or what's next. And I know what's coming and when it's next to the best of my ability." But there are some people who much prefer having the job security and having that. And that's all respect to that as well. But you had a yearning for something different. And I'm just proud of you for making that happen. And I want to invite everyone. So you're having an open house September 23rd. I'm gonna get through this quick. We're about done. At the 304 building on Grant Road, September 23rd, 4:00. Outside, safe. Your website is kenadygroup.com if anyone would like to take a look and just start to dive into what you're creating for yourself and what you're creating for your team. So best of luck to you. Keep up the good work. And, I think just having this vision for yourself is just having the vision. It might take you a while to achieve it, but just having it and working toward it a bit each day. I think that's the sweet spot I was talking about.
I agree. And I don't know how much time we have, but I think that's the biggest thing for women, people in general, is just take the leap. It might not be career oriented or business oriented. It might be, you want to take an art class or a cooking class or whatever that is, but just follow that passion and you'll never go wrong.
And don't wait, right?
Don't.
Okay. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.